So we swapped Glen Powell for Ahnold in this newest rendition of Stephen King's The Running Man. Can Edgar Wright deliver an updated version that's both relevant and exciting? In a near-future society, The Running Man is the top-rated show on television, a deadly competition where contestants must survive 30 days while being hunted by professional assassins, with every move broadcast to a bloodthirsty public. Desperate to save his sick daughter, working-class Ben is convinced by the show's ruthless producer to enter the game as a last resort. But Ben's defiance, instincts, and grit turn him into an unexpected fan favorite and a threat to the entire system. As the ratings skyrocket, so does the danger, and Ben must outwit not just the hunters, but a nation addicted to watching him fail. So, in addition to Glen Powell, this stars Colman Domingo, Josh Brolin, Lee Pace, Jayme Lawson, Katy O'Brian, William H. Macy, Michael Cera, Daniel Ezra, and Emilia Jones. Good God, who doesn't star in this? Well, the film is an extremely timely and relevant one, as it points out repeatedly the chasm that exists between the rich and the poor. Now, this is a dystopian worldview, where corporations have a ton of control over pretty much every aspect of life. And those that aren't in the ruling class are relegated to living areas and working conditions that are toxic and depressed. I guess maybe we're living in a dystopian time right now. Well, Edgar Wright creates this vivid visual break between the two worlds, where outside these clean city gates, there exists filthy streets, run-down buildings, beat-up old vehicles that have been wonkily converted into hybrids. He's basically taking the late 70s through maybe late 80s aesthetics and putting some jury-rigged tech on it so that it's conceivable and eerily plausible. But inside the city gates, it is sparkling clean and crisp. I mean, it's similar vibe to seeing the Capitol for the first time in the Hunger Games, where those inside have very little connection or even a clue as to what happens outside the walls. And they couldn't care less either. We also see how the media plays a massive role, not only in entertainment, but in the continuation of the divisive mindsets that are wedged between the upper and lower classes. The network, as it's referred to, not only maintains a hold on the masses through its variety of sadistic game shows, but it also owns the legal system and can make its own rules. And I'm going to get to all of that in just a minute. But Glen Powell turns on his charm once again for this performance, using his smile to disarm, but not necessarily hide the wrath that's building inside him. He creates Ben to be charismatic and desperate, someone who's seemingly all out of choices and looking past the rational to the more risky endeavors, all in the name of saving his family. And it is fun to see him in the interview process for the game shows. I mean, it's almost like he's intentionally trying to fail the tests, but he ends up winning the right, or maybe wrong, people over so that he can get then cast into the Running Man season finale. Now, the drive he displays in his eyes, it's almost scary. Like he would run through a brick wall if it was necessary. But also, they show this deep compassion and integrity. And through some quick, clever dialogue and then some flashbacks, we get to see that even though this dude is fierce and angry, he won't hesitate to do the right thing, even if it's to his detriment. There are more than a few times we get to witness the noble choices that he makes, and the concern he doles out for strangers. It creates this humanizing element in a world and story that is designed to eliminate humanity in the pursuit of greed and entertainment. Now, Josh Brolin is once again a wonderful antagonist. Here, he's this slimy corporate head who will do and say anything to get his way, and in turn then continue to hold immense power and wealth. Now, we know right from the start that he's a terrible person, but Brolin puts on this suave, almost seductive facade that we as the audience were made to see through that. But the rest of the characters, they won't necessarily be so in tune. And I like what he brought to the screen, and I do think his performance is commanding, but the villain's storyline, it's predictable and generic. There isn't anything surprising within his development that makes him nuanced or even clever outside of what Brolin can create through expressions and vocal intonations. Now, probably my favorite performance in this, aside from Powell, is Michael Cera. He's as quirky and strange as his Scott Pilgrim character, but he's also sarcastically devious and ready to burn the rich. He plays this cagey and odd guy named Elton, and while he is skittish, and then certainly jittery, he creates some chaos that is full of joyful glee. I loved how his backstory, and it is told in a very quick manner, it sheds more light on all that's going on in the world. And then it also works to inform Powell's Ben of why he needs to continue the fight to win the game. There's one portion in particular where Elton gets all giddy because he has a certain amount of time to play with a group. And not only was this just a bit unhinged, but the banter and the responses that he gets from Powell makes it all the more enjoyable. Now, obviously, there is a bunch of action in this, and if you've seen the trailer, you get an idea a lot of the types of stunts and carnage that's ensuing. In true Edgar Wright fashion, though, so many of the bullet strikes, footfalls, and action moves, they are timed perfectly with the musical score and the soundtrack. And these create a hypnotic rhythm that isn't in-your-face obvious, but enables us to become synced up with the pacing and the action without becoming intrusive. As I'd hinted at before, the bloodlust that's curated through the shows plays just to the basest of human values. I mean, it's even likened to the Roman Colosseum, where gladiators and the poor would just duke it out for the entertainment of the masses. Now, Wright does an expert job in setting a tone that highlights the mob mentality, and then while hyping it up, simultaneously condemns it through the dialogue and actions of Powell's bent. Kind of like how V for Vendetta could be used as an inspiration or maybe rallying cry to all those who are under the thumb of authoritarians, The Running Man does the exact same thing, using the vehemence of those who are oppressed and then the realities of AI media manipulation to showcase how these people in power are attempting to just manipulate everyone for their own selfish gains. Powell becomes that mouthpiece, spouting the pent-up snark, rage, and fury of someone whose give a damn has been broken for quite a while and is way past their breaking point. It's kind of scary how relevant the storyline is for today's culture. And what I appreciate is that while it is very pointed and present, it's not so preachy that it's a sermon. Instead, we get an impassioned character who's fed up with the status quo and then using both his anger and platform to draw attention to all the malicious and abhorrent things that are being done to the vulnerable masses. And this is a brilliant use of media and storytelling to showcase injustices and creating talking points around the need for change. Now, I'm not sure Wright is telling us to all grab Molotovs and then start going after the power abusers. At the same time, though, I don't think he's telling us not to. Despite all the chases and intense action, the 2 hours and 13 minutes, it can be felt. There's this portion of the story where the messaging, it's still pertinent, but the pacing tanks the momentum and has the potential to lose the audience, which then makes the story points kind of moot. And the ending is also a bit strange and abrupt. It's designed to create some doubt and maybe possible surprise, but it contains such jarring transitions that it pretty much broke me out of the movie for a bit. That's crazy because of how little time was left in the story. Now, I did appreciate how the film does resolve, but the sudden shift felt almost like this lazy way to get out of a situation, even though what followed did work to kind of resolve that. And maybe it won't be a sticking point with everybody else, but I didn't enjoy going from harried action into a whole different type of frenetic scene. All in all, The Running Man is an entertainingly violent chase with Glen Powell's charm leading the way. While the pacing and momentum aren't consistently maintained, and the ending is a hard change in direction, the relevance of the storytelling, combined with exciting stunts, music beats perfectly aligned with the action, and the clashing aesthetics of the rich and poor, all work together to create an engaging, if not long, survival story. There's no sex, some nudity, a lot of profanity, then a ton of violence. I give The Running Man 4 out of 5 couches. So do you have a favorite dystopian movie? I'm always down to watch The Book of Eli, and then once was more than enough of Cormac McCarthy's The Road. But let me know what some of your favorites are in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.